Well, at least they waited until it was nearly the end of winter, where I won't need this quite as much, to tell me that I can't have it anymore. So I guess I'll start the uninsulation process here in a little bit. So as you know, this is the wood stove we use. Obviously it's coming to the end of the season. As a matter of fact, I don't have any firewood in the house right now except for what's in the wood stove, because I was afraid that we'd have so much firewood at the end of the season that I'd have to carry it all back outside. So what I've been doing is just kind of splitting enough to fill it up. If I need it, then I burn it and then bring another load in. But this one's been in here for several days. Now it's supposed to get back down in the low 40s, high 30s sometime this week. I guess, I don't know, a couple days. So I was thinking we were going to have to light it again. Now, as a lot of you will know, we bought this used. It was only used twice a few years ago. Bought it off Facebook Marketplace. I think, I always get the price wrong, but I've been saying $700, but then I think it was like $300. I think, let's just call it $400. It was extremely cheap. And for it only being used twice, it was amazing. Now this is one of these new EPA efficient wood stoves. Now it's not overly efficient. There are others that have this catalytic converter where it burns everything and it uses precious metals, and those have to be inspected and replaced all the time. And then you can get the hybrid kind where you get one like this with the catalytic converter. This one is a air tube efficient wood stove. And what happens here is the smoke, as it's burning, hits these air tubes and it ignites the smoke. So it's burning nearly everything that is being consumed in there in the fire. But in a fireplace, there's absolutely no efficiency in a fireplace. You're literally burning the wood, it turns into smoke or heat, either one, and it goes straight up the chimney. There's not much of the heat that comes out towards you. But this has all kinds, it's really interesting how it works. My hand is touching a ceiling, is probably the best way to put it. And then I put my hand in between the ceiling, and then when I go up into the ceiling, there's a roof. Best way I can explain it. So you have two layers. You have the fire hitting the air tubes. The air tubes are right here, and this insulation. They call it fire brick, but it's not fire brick. It's like space shuttle technology. Anyway, so the fire's hitting that with the air tubes there. Then you have this. Smoke's going around here and then up the chimney. And the chimney's right here. So you have two layers of that heat absorption. It's fantastic technology. And so when we light this, even after the flames burn down, we stay warm in this house for about 8 hours. Now, of course, we live in a tiny house. That's a big advantage. Now, they did, when they made these, this is called Wood Pro, but they don't make these anymore. They also made one that was a little bit smaller. Now, people will say, well, you know, this is too big for our house. Well, it's not too big for the house. If you want a smaller fire, you just reduce the log size, which is what we've been doing here in the springtime. And that means that everything that you're putting in, or at least 80% of everything you're putting in, all the wood in there, is being burned and used for heat. You're not losing a lot of heat. Now, some people will say to put a box on here that has a fan and that will take some of the heat away from the chimney. Well, you don't want to cool down the chimney because the chimney creates a draft. So as heat rises, that heat starts to pull in air into here and helps burn more efficiently. So if you cool down the chimney, you're going to lose that draft, and so your fire is going to die down. It's just not going to, it just doesn't work. But people try to sell it at Home Depot. You do have to maintain these pretty well. You have to make sure your seals work. You put a little dollar bill in there and you close the door. If you can't pull the dollar bill out, then it's sealed up just fine. The glass is a little bit expensive. I think we paid, I don't know, $300. I did it twice. I broke the glass twice. So don't break the glass. But it's actually ceramic. It's clear ceramic. It's not glass. But it's pretty resilient to heat and cold temperatures. I've had cold cup coffee and I spilt it on there and it didn't break. I used to keep a pot of water on top and I spilt a little, it didn't break. It's a fantastic wood stove. This is 1,000 times better than what your grandma and grandpa had, or even your parents. It's amazing. I mean, I remember I was a kid and you're always huddled around it, and it never seemed like it was warm, and it was always cold when I was a kid. But this, it's just fantastic, and it stays warm for so long. Now, there's something you have to do, and some people just seem to their mind explodes to think they got to do this extra work. It's just more work than they can stand. And what you got to do is you go out and cut the tree down, and then you cut it up into logs, and then you split the firewood, and then you stack the firewood, and then you don't do anything to it for 3 years, 2 to 3 years, depending on what kind of firewood you got. Oak and hickory, 2 to 3 years. And that's it. You don't do a thing. And now, all that moisture inside that firewood, that green firewood, depletes from it, evaporates from it. So your firewood moisture content is 20% or less. For some reason, that waiting is more than anybody can handle. It's more work than they can stand. They can't stand it. Every time I talk about it, oh, that's ridiculous. I'll just throw it in there anyways. Every video I make, I have dozens of people telling me it's ridiculous, you gotta use dry firewood. The reason you have to use dry firewood, and you should have done this with your grandma and grandpa's fire also, their houses burn down because of this. What happens is that smoke is wood particles. That's all it is. Unburned wood. Gets hot, floats up into the chimney. Well, when there's water on it, then it becomes this gooey paste, and it sticks on your chimney. So now you have wood particles, gooey wood particles, tar, stuck inside your wood chimney. So when a spark comes up and hits that chimney, it ignites it on fire, really hot. I think it gets up to 1,000 degrees, 800,000 degrees, and it melts your chimney, and then you have this big fire in your attic, and you're like, huh, wonder how that happened. I see it every year on Facebook. Somebody will post a picture, why is my chimney red? And there'll be dozens of people down there. It's because you didn't clean your chimney, or you're burning wet firewood. If you're burning creosote, wet firewood, and it accumulates, and you never do get a fire, let's just say you don't get a fire, which isn't possible, you will get a fire. We got 2 when we burn wet firewood. The chimney will get so constricted with that creosote that the smoke will no longer go up. So you can't light a fire. It just won't go. So I've tried to sell people on this. I've tried to educate people on this, and I just can't. Governments all around the world, including some of the state governments, are trying to ban wood stoves altogether, burning firewood, all of it. California has these temporary bans. Oh, pollution's too bad in the environment, or whatever they say. And so they tell you can't burn your wood stoves in the middle of winter. I don't know how cold it gets in California, but I would imagine if you were kind of hoping that you could burn firewood in the wintertime and they put a temporary ban on it, that's still kind of not good. This is the only source of heat we have. Now, that's not true. I do have a buddy heater, but I mean, that's propane and it's a backup. I don't think the buddy heater could actually heat this place up if we got down to negative temperatures. It would knock the chill off. Knock the freezing cold off, I guess I should say, but it would still be cold in here. This was not hard to install. I've never installed a wood stove, never cut a hole through the roof. Of course, I built a tiny house, but I never done anything like this. And I watched a few videos and I was able to make it happen. You can buy all the components at the Tractor Supply store. I think that's where I got them. I just ordered them. I think you can get them Home Depot too. But you can get the single wall. Now you're supposed to have double wall here. Again, that's so you're holding the heat in the chimney so you get a better draft. So I did make a mistake there, but it hasn't hurt me at all. I get a pretty good draft. And then you have your attic box at the top. The attic box keeps anything in the attic from going near the chimney. So that attic box surrounds the chimney all the way up to the roof. And then you cut another hole, and then you have, and all that chimney there is triple layer. Now when I say triple layer or double layer, what you have is you have your metal, and then it's wrapped in insulation with another wrap of metal. That's double wall. And then if you want a triple wall, have another wrap of insulation. That's triple wall. That holds that heat in there. Again, so you get that draft. Some say it costs $10,000 to have this installed by a professional. I guess it could. I would imagine a professional is going to do things that I didn't do. They're going to pour concrete at the floor. I used sidewalk pavers And that worked really well for us. We broke one, I broke one, and we had an extra one, so I slid it in there. But this works really well. And then I used this $8 metal sheet. It's roofing material. I put an inch gap in between it so it would stay cool in between the wall and the metal. That works really well also. I did the same thing for the ceiling. Everything's metal up there. So it was a lot cheaper. Now the chimney is pretty expensive. I would imagine the chimney costs more, now remember I bought this used, than the wood stove did. Now you can buy these wood stoves at Home Depot, you buy them online. And the one, if I ever bought another one, I think it's going to be an Ashley because it's very similar to this one. I don't know if this is true, it probably isn't true, but when Wood Pro went out of business, I would imagine Ashley bought it. Bought the design, because when I go look at Ashley, they look identical to this one. But again, you can buy these at all kinds of different places, maybe even Orscheln's and Tractor Supply, Lowe's, Home Depot. Just make sure that you get the air tubes. I say that if you wanted to get the catalytic converter, that's fine. But when we looked into them, the companies wanted to install it themselves. They wouldn't allow me to install it. I had to buy it, and they had to bring it in. And it was just a fortune. So, you know, we tried to do everything as inexpensive as possible. And this is just the most economical one you can buy. Now, this one's already not as efficient as the newer ones. This one's only 3 or 4 years old. 85% efficient, I think is what it is. And now they get them up 90, 95% efficient. But I'm going to take this one out because my community / my comment section constantly are telling me this is a bad idea. You need to get yourself a rocket mass stove or heater, rocket mass heater. And this is the most ridiculous idea I can think of. First of all, I just saw a picture of it. I researched this a little bit again, just so I could have a conversation with you. There was a picture of a woman sitting next to one. The thing is 3 times the size she is. Now, we live in a tiny house. It would take up this entire wall, my entire wall here, just to have it. Why would I want something that's going to take up nearly half of my house so I can heat the other half? And it's really cute to watch. Beautiful flames, puts you right to sleep with the dancing. And that's not carbon monoxide. Somebody's going to say it's carbon monoxide. But then when you look into it, you know, the comment last night was, you need to go get you a rocket mass stove or mass rocket stove or whatever they're called. So once again, you Google it, and the only thing that's out there is the stove. I keep saying stove. They do sell the stoves. You can use these stoves outside or in your tent or something like that. Rocket mass stove. But a rocket mass heater, there are companies out there that you can hire. What they do is they come out and they build this thing as part of your house. It's not something you can just buy off Amazon. They have to build it. I've seen a YouTube channel, I've seen a YouTube channel that has one. And they use masonry, and you know, it costs $2,000-$3,000. Granted, these can cost that much too, but I can buy this used, whereas the rocket heater thing, you can't buy used. And they say it's 80 to 90% more efficient and uses 80-90% less firewood than your wood stove, which is absolutely garbage information. It is a lie, no matter how you want to look at it. When you do the research, it is 80 to 90% more efficient, or uses 80 to 90% less firewood than a fireplace. Now remember, a fireplace is a fire that all the heat and smoke goes straight up the chimney. So you're only getting about 10% of the heat to come out. The rest of it is going up the chimney. So if you can keep the heat in the house at all, you're doing better than a fireplace. So this one's 85% efficient. And I don't have to have someone come in my house and build it and take up half the house. When I looked it up, you know, I thought, well, let's look on Amazon and all this. The only thing they had was a book on how to build it. So I wanted to be thorough. So I opened it up, went down to the review section, and there was like 10 reviews, 5, 6, 7 reviews, something like that. And they all basically said the same thing. Every one of them with 5 stars. All the reviews were fake. The guy who wrote the book probably had his 10 family members go and write the same thing. Hey, just copy and paste this. And so these gullible people coming to my YouTube channel, where I'm trying to educate on the realistic of living off grid and come up with this just, gotta be careful, I might get mad and cuss something. Do your research. It was a simple Google search. And the thing is I didn't have to go much further than Wikipedia. I did go a little further, but I didn't have to because Wikipedia said it's all anecdotal evidence. There's no scientific proof that these rocket mass stoves are 80 to 90% more efficient. But then in the Wikipedia page it says the anecdotal evidence says 80 to 90% more efficient than a fireplace. This is not a fireplace. This is a highly engineered, top of the scientific community's wood burning stove technology. So if you click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was talking about the chickens. So if I can inspire you to do your research so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.